Hey everyone, welcome to iConversations. We're delighted to have you join us, whether you're here live with us now or you're watching the replay. We wish great things for you in the coming week. This iConversations, we're getting back to something that's quite granular, just unpacking the last few sales that some of our icon agents have been making. So today we are joined with Dee, with Lee, with Krish, and with James. People, welcome to iConversations.
Hi, everyone.
That's great. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to get you to introduce yourselves, where you're at, where you're located in the country, kind of what your normal sales price would be. And then we want to kind of jump back and just unpack some of your recent sales. So we'll start with you, Dee.
I'm in Mackay in Queensland, and the average for me isn't as high as I'd like it to be, but it's kicking over. So probably now it's moved more into the mid fours. But there's not much under now, and it is starting to creep higher.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Krish, what about you?
I'm in Adelaide, South Australia, working in the northern part of Adelaide, and my average price of the sale is around 600 to 800 sort of range, and it's keep going at the moment.
Yep. Yep. All right. Lee Martinuzzi, what about you?
Hey there, Rob. So up in Palmwood, Sunshine Coast, average price here about 850,000.
Right. Great. And we'll pop over to James Stacey.
So in beautiful Port Lincoln, and the average sale price here is, my average sale price here is about 520 at the moment.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for giving us a little bit of locations where we are. If you haven't met me before, I'm Rob Davis. I normally host these icon sessions, and I'm the licensee for the state in Western Australia, so over in Perth. So we're delighted to have everybody join us today. We want to go back and do something that's a little bit more granular. So I want to set the scene. We see people win awards. We see them become icon agents and a lot of different things. And sometimes we get this impression that you guys just live wonderful velvet lives. Nothing ever goes wrong. Everything is smooth and it's wonderful. And it might be for you, but we're about to unpack. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about your last 3 sales that you've done. And so as you're thinking about the last 3 sales that you've done, we'll just pick one of those sales, and we'll start with you, Dee, and just tell us kind of maybe what the address of the property is, and how you got that listing, where the lead came from.
Okay, well, the first one that I'd sort of put down, because I had 3, was 307 Slade Point Road. And I'll highlight that one because it ended up selling at 465. So when you look at the location, it's the least desirable spot. So a main road here is busy, but it's one road in, one road out to the little suburb. So, but no one likes living on there, but people still buy.
Yeah.
And the chap the vendor had it for maybe about 14 years. And so 465 was a very good price for what the house had to offer.
Yeah. And how did you get that lead originally?
I first met the vendor at an open home, probably even maybe over 18 months ago.
Right.
They follow me on social media. So even though you have a gap, they're there. My signs are up all over the place because this was in my farming area.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just constantly in everyone's face. Not that I'm aware of it, but
Yeah.
I am. Right.
Yeah.
And then I think the cap with this was I was very much trialing with Sean Egan with some of his strategies on his marketing. And we only had I think 1 campaign.
Yep.
And we had set it up that we could get leads from it. And he was a lead. And then we kind of just reconnected again.
Yep.
And he was up and down constantly. I was at him constantly. So I did really keep the contact. Are you ready? What we're doing? You ready? What we're doing? And my line with any vendors that I sort of get the feeling they are keen, they're just busy.
Yeah.
I'll just keep calling. And then if it gets to like I've called 4 times, not in one day,
Yeah.
so it's it over. But then I just use the line and say, hi, in his case, it was Michael. Hi, Michael, this is Dee, your local stalker. If you don't reply, I will keep calling you until you tell me to piss off. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that depends on who they are, but you could say that to him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, most people find it funny and they call.
Yeah. And I think we'll pause that story for just a second, Dee. But I think what you've just demonstrated there is the ability, or what science tells us, that most sales are made somewhere between the 8th and 12th touch point with somebody. It's not necessarily oh, I door knocked a house and they listed with me this afternoon and I sold it. You know, like some people have this weird scenario in their brains. Krish, what about you, mate? What was your one of your last listings? Tell us where it was and how you got that lead.
My last sort of sale is 24 Foster Street in Worsley, which is 1 hour drive from Adelaide, which is a little bit countryside.
Yep.
There's not many sales happening in that area. I got that listing from one of my client referral, because I sold their mom's house in Palawi. So I got that listing for his son's house. And in that little town, not many sales happening, and we have priced the property around 6 to 620.
Yeah.
And once we put it in the market, we have one inspection. We got 5 groups came through the property. I got 4 offers sitting around 600 or below that, but I got one offer which is 720. He's like over the moon. It's like $100,000 more than his asking price. We didn't put any price on the property.
Yep.
But the guy who is putting 720, he just recently sold his property. He has to buy something as soon as possible, and they like the property. They put an offer. So owner is over the moon. They didn't see this price before in the town, and he's really, really happy.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's park that there for a second. We'll pop over to Lee Martinuzzi. Lee, what about one of your last 3 sales? Which one do you want to focus in on?
Okay, I had one on a property here on Wells Street, number 8 Wells Street in Palmwoods. So yeah, got that listing. Well, actually, the owner, elderly gentleman, contacted me recently. Lost his wife, and needed to sell, but he contacted me on the landline. Doesn't have mobile or anything like that.
Yeah.
Left me a message. He didn't actually leave me a number to call him back on. So I jumped online and see if I had his contact number. I didn't have his contact number. Couldn't find it anywhere on the platforms. So on my next errand, my next visit that I had on the run, I went out to his house, door knocked him. He was there. I quickly went through and he said, "Oh, do you want to sit down now?" I said, "Mate, look, unfortunately, I'm going to another appointment, but I can come back."
Yeah.
I could tell that he wanted to sell, so I scheduled another time for him that evening at about 6:30, 7 o'clock. Went back to him, and this is one of those rare ones where I listed him that night. So that property listed, beautifully presented property, about 4 years old or so. And we had it on the market as an expressions of interest campaign, which I'm running a lot right now, using a platform called Market Buy or EXP Offers. And we had that on the market for just over 3 weeks, really, and had multiple offers in there. One which managed to secure it a little bit under what he wanted, to be honest. That's the market at the moment, or was at that point in time. But still a great price for the property it was. It was just under what he ideally would have liked.
Yeah.
But we sold that in a short time, and he was happy with the end result.
All right. We're going to come back to the 3 of you, but we want to catch up with James Stacey. James, Port Lincoln, the mayor of. Jason might argue with that, but we'll call you the mayor of.
He calls me Messiah, so I don't think he's going to argue with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Cool. Tell us about one of your last 3 sales.
So interestingly, the last 3 sales, I was writing some notes on this last night, and they've all been absolute doozies. It's probably more of a where we're heading in our local market anyway. But
yeah.
One sale in particular, it was a property at 8 Blackman Place. It's zone commercial with a residential use on a local council, so they're always a little bit difficult to sell. It's in the middle of the CBD, well, not in the middle of the CBD, it's in the CBD, and it is a mix between resi living and commercial properties as well. So a little bit interesting. It was by no means my greatest sale in the world, but I got the listing as a referral. In fact, 2 of the last 3 was referral. Referral business is a big part of my business. Interestingly enough, the vendor had sold her primary place of residence through our local Harris agent in South Australia, and my referral was more powerful than her experience with Harris, which was good. And she had a good experience with Harris. She didn't knock the agent at all. She just wanted to try me because her friends was raving about me. We first listed the property at 445, 465. Week on the market, went under contract, waited 4 weeks for a finance decline. It fell over a week and a half before settlement. It was an Airbnb property, cancelled future bookings. It was an absolute mess of a situation. And as soon as I got that cancellation, we were hammer and tong back with open inspections. But as far as opens, when I did 6 opens for a total of 12 attendees, so I didn't have a lot of choice there. It went under contract as a result of the first weekend's opens on the first point, and then it took a further month to wait, and then it was a month and a half before we secured another buyer.
So just like that, you had it done?
Yeah.
Just like that over a 3-month period?
Yeah. Definitely not smooth sailing on that one, but it's a good example because it was a more difficult sale, not a run-of-the-mill property. Funnily enough, the initial contract price we had was 440, and we had reduced the price after the contract fell over to 439 to try and secure a buyer very close to that again. The buyer that ended up coming through the last home open simply asked what happened, and I said, the contract fell through. They asked what price, and I always disclose if you think it's in the vendor's best interest to disclose that price, and in this instance it was. And she came in and matched the contract price, so she actually paid over $1,000 over the asking price. So it worked out there in my favor. Whereas if I was, cocky and said, it doesn't really matter where the contract was, then she sort of doesn't know where to shoot her offer. First home buyer, emotional buyer. It was a stone home, it was a tidy little cottage renovated. So she had all the, I suppose, buying motivations to purchase it, and asked the right questions and got the right answers.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think as long as you aren't breaking any local legislation by doing that in your area, in your state, and your seller's happy with that, I find the more transparent you can be with all parties, oftentimes you get a much better result because people stop playing games and they start being adults and make adult decisions. Coming back to you, Dee, the sale that you mentioned there, what method of sale did you use?
I'm always private treaty.
Yep. And where did the buyer come from? Did they?
He was an investor from Sydney.
Yep.
Area, and it was tenanted, so I was promoting that, locking that in with $800 a week rent.
Yeah, wow.
So that was a 12-month lease. So we locked that in because I knew that would help with the sale because of location. And I didn't do any open homes or inspections. It was had some inquiry. By the time we were ready, because I do previews, so I had the inquiry from that. So by the time it hit the market, I worked with this particular buyer because I felt like I could get him up. The local probably wouldn't have paid that much for that property. And and he keeps referring me to other people, so they keep calling me, see if I've got more properties.
Yeah, what else you got? You got anything else with that?
But so it was good. I find with the investors, the due diligence, you've got to be prepared for the due diligence, but I respect that. They're buying sight unseen. I mean, he still did the deal, and I didn't even do a video walkthrough. But, I know the area, and I sell this area well, and the type of buildings, and the fact that I renovate, and this one had renovations. So I think, they seem to have confidence in that. But in the end, I still pushed him to take him through for a video walkthrough, just so we wouldn't. But yeah, their due diligence is more thorough. And so sometimes the unconditional date can get extended.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Krish, I want to come back to you and talk to you about your sale there. You you advertised without a price.
Yep.
Your buyer, were they local or they came from, tell us again, I forgot what you said. Where did the buyer come from?
Buyer probably come from real estate advertise,
Yeah.
realestate.com, REA, and they probably look at the ad on online, and they've recently sold their property, so they have to move somewhere. They have
Were they local to that area, or were they in
They
Adelaide?
are not too far away,
Not
like
too far.
15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes away from there.
Yeah.
So they are close by anyway, and they brought the property. So we advertise the property as make an offer. And this is works as a hidden auction. So there's no price guide. And if I would have put the price guide, we would have put at least like 620, 650 range. And
Yeah.
you don't get more than that anyway. But if you didn't put a price guide, we got 100,000 was more than vendor's expectation. So
Yeah.
he's over the moon.
Yeah, I can believe that. And just as a compliance note here, be sure you adhere to your local laws in your local state. Some states that'd be fine. Some states might have an issue with that. But no, that's really great. So you've worked the process that's working in your local environment. You've transferred that from where you normally work. You've driven an hour away. You've used the same process and got an outstanding
But the
result.
thing is, we got 5 offers. We got first day, we got 5 group. All of them put the offer, all 100% ratio, and
Wow.
4 offer is under 6, and 1 offer is 720. So
Yeah.
you see the difference between the last offer and the highest offer is huge.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back and ask you guys each what you might have learned throughout the process of this last sale. But one of the things I pick up just from Krish's story here is the fact that, you know, sometimes we as agents get really, we get into the weeds on pricing rather than process. So, you know, Tom Panis might talk about it's the process that you use, not the promise of a price to get a result. And I think it's really, really true. In my marketplace, buyers can be coming from local, regional, interstate, and everybody has a different opinion of value. And so it's really, really important for us as agents to keep an open mind. Lee, I want to come back to you, mate, and I want to just talk to you. What method of sale you used? EXP offers?
Yeah, so I use the platform Market Buy,
Yeah.
which is quite an easy to use platform for many. It's a bit new, so you have to educate people on it, which is important. But I'm using that for pretty much all my property sales. It's private treaty, it's not an auction, but it can act like that depending on the sale. I'm definitely finding the market in the last 6 months or so very unpredictable as to where that price is going to fall.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
the
like
beauty
this.
of the EXP offers. I've been using it as well, and it's so good.
Yeah, it sort of just leaves it a bit more open. I do find, however, and more recently, particularly the feedback coming through just from sellers and buyers is that they want a price. Now, I know buyers always want a price, but having it from sellers now. So I am actually starting to put a price guide on there.
Yeah.
Even if we're leaving it broadly open. And I explain that to the sellers, they understand it generally. And then I explain that to the buyers as well. So when I say broadly, depending on the price category of the property, but for, you know, like an $800,000 property, let's say they want 850, I might say buyers in the 8s.
Yeah.
You know, or price guide 800.
Yeah.
And that's even a bit more broad. So I use that often. With that particular sale I had up there, I didn't have a price guide on that one. But I did give out a price guide. So if people rang me, I would say, yep, you know, this is the price guide for that property. And what was your next question? So we had
where did
we
the
had
buyer, the eventual buyer, where did they come from?
Yeah, so we had pretty much, I think there was 3 offers on that property, and they were all local buyers. There was a young couple, and the couple that bought it were a fairly young couple too, with a young child, and they were local to the Sunshine Coast. And there was another lady that had sold up and moved here. I think she might have been from North, and she made an offer on the property early on as well. So, yeah, local buyers typically for that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And I'm going to rotate back to one of my last questions for you. As an agent, sometimes we just so busy caught up in what we're doing, getting to the next thing, then you got timber pests and whatever else. You don't really take some time to reflect and learn the lesson from the last sale that you did. So I asked our Icon agents to just think a little bit about what lessons did you learn selling the property. So we'll come back to you, Dee, and we'll ask you if you had any time to think about, what did you learn from the last sale or from the one that you're talking about?
Maintain patience.
Yeah.
No, but that
I
was
think that's really important. I think it's really
Yeah.
important as an agent
and
to
not to
maintain.
get negative, keep your mindset right, because with and the conversations, the little things in between, and his solicitor, his conveyancer, you would have easily started, like I could at times start to think, oh, is he going to pull out on this? Do I need to get more people in? Because the seller was happy not to have open homes inspections because it was tenanted, but I still kept good contact with all the inquiry coming behind. But the fact I didn't take anyone in, it was like, as our job, you still want to take inspections, but I didn't get that opportunity with it. So with that, I just, I don't know about a lesson. I try to apply it in all. It's that constant keeping in touch throughout the process.
Yeah.
And reassuring and trying to sort of read the language that comes through, because sometimes in this case we had really stern emails coming through from the solicitor, and then he wasn't even really being informed. There was that sort of stuff going on.
Yeah. I think what I learned from you telling that about that sale is the lead generation. You were consistent with your lead generation. You're trying everything. You were also very persistent in your follow-up to get the listing. And then, as you say, you just were prepared to roll with the punches as it came along in that process.
And that was launched without a price as well.
Yeah.
So most of mine are without prices. Some I will, or I'll put a range in now, and probably I've got a couple coming that I'm about to test market buy. I'd like to, and I've got the ball rolling on that. But I probably got one in particular that expressions of interest would suit more.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess you always keep tweaking. And then probably my biggest thing from this is wish I had more listings and put in more, went into top gear, because our listings are starting to dry up. It happened quite quickly, just suddenly. So I am out prospecting now with a letterbox drop. They have worked for me. And so I think in that sales process and what's happening there, one of the learnings is you've just got to keep in there as well.
Yeah, it's really easy if you don't have a system for lead generation or prospecting or whatever. It's really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind of getting the sale done and taking your eye off of where's the next bit of business coming from. James, Stacey, I want to jump over to you in Port Lincoln. I love the fact that you selected a sale that wasn't straightforward.
My last three, none of them were straightforward, to be honest with you.
You're like, let me bring out my train load full of irregular sales. What lessons are you learning for yourself and maybe about the market and people?
Like for me, always remaining on top of, like, it's never over until the money's in the bank, and I think I learned that pretty hard on this particular sale. Like the buyer provided me with a pre-approval letter, and it was a decline on finance, and it took 4 weeks to get declined as well. Like, it was an absolute schmozzle. It was a 6-week settlement, 4-week finance clause, but with a pre-approved, we were pretty confident everything was going to happen. Building and pest inspection were done. They passed, no issues. The buyer was led up the garden path as well, so he had a lot of confidence that he was going to be moving into the property in a fortnight's time, and then he got a decline. So it was a rude shock for everyone. And I think as an agent, sometimes you do forget that it's not over until that formal letter comes through, regardless of what people have said in the past and banks reneging on applications and whatnot. And his situation, it came down to split income to his ex-partner and child, what do they call it? Maintenance costs and whatnot. So it was just an underestimate of actual costs, according to the bank's regulations. So I think it's just a matter of never put the tools down until it is tools down, because people were ringing. I advertised the property is under offer. I did all the wrong things in that situation. I should have continued to market the property for sale until it went unconditional. And I think that's something I've forgotten to do, because I have been marking properties as under offer very, very quickly of late, and now I don't until the contract's unconditional. So
Yeah, and
James, one quick question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a offer and it's under contract. You have put the contract on it, and of course it's still available for sale, and people are calling. What do you tell to them?
So there's been an offer accepted, the contract has been signed, and that contract is not unconditional.
Yeah.
So I register the buyer to the property still, and then let them know, A, does the property fall over, or B, does it get sold, and then what it's sold for as well. Notifying those buyers that have inquired, because it's nice to have that closure as a buyer. I mean, a lot of buyers now, especially investor type buyers, they inquire, or the property's under offer, they move on to the next investment, they don't care. But if it is an owner-occupier buyer and they've been looking for a while, the property sort of comes up or it falls in their price range, or they happen to get that approval from the bank, I think it's nice for them to know then what that property has sold for, because it helps educate them. And they might circle back to you and say, hey, look, that's great. Do you have anything else similar coming into the market and whatnot? And I think as we head towards a market that's going to require a bit more skill to sell properties, we're going to have to manage our buyers a lot better. For me anyway, in Port Lincoln.
And I think that something on top of what James is saying is we sometimes categorize people into buyers and sellers. Our brains kind of do that as agents. Our community is just made up of people. And those people, they experience us in different ways. So if you're short with buyers, or if you're whatever, and this applies to myself as well, you forget that they might be the cousin of the next person that you go to do an appraisal for. And if you're short with the buyer and the cousins are talking and they go, oh, Rob Davis, no, we tried to buy a house through him and he was an idiot. Don't list with him. So we really need to be mindful of some of those things.
Just on that and the no price situation. Sorry to cut in there, Rob.
Yeah.
We had, I don't like the no price sale. I think it creates a lot of issues. And the agents that do it well need to have good scripts around that, because some of the buyers' feedback that we've got is that some of the responses that real estate agents have are very, very cocky. And they don't like it, and they simply won't look at the property. So sometimes those responses that you give to buyers aren't the right responses. So just master your scripts, and what scripts work for you work for different markets all around Australia. So just master the scripts, but don't come across as arrogant. Like if someone asks you for a price guide, don't throw it back in their face and think, oh, what would you pay for it? Like the response should be, look, the vendor has asked to market the property without a price. We're seeking information or feedback from the buyers. So it's about how you handle that conversation with that particular buyer. Don't be arrogant and cocky, because it won't last long. I mean, at the moment, and again, certain areas around Australia, if you've got still with a Facebook page and a pulse, you can sell a property, like especially without a price or a best offer campaign or an auction type campaign. But other areas are very, very different. So we're still in a good market where I am. Don't get me wrong. What's getting listed is usually getting sold. But the buyers are getting sick of arrogant agents with no price conversations, and that's feedback from my direct buyers, because we've got agents in my market that advertise without a price or do best offer, and their responses are
shocking.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I wanted, if Lee is still here, I know he popped in. Yeah, he is. Lee, I just want to come back and finish with you. What were some of the lessons that you learned in that sale?
Oh, that's a good question. Lessons in Wells Street. I don't really have any particular lessons that come to mind, to be honest. I think really looking back to it, and what allowed it to be successful was using the EXP offers platform, getting offers through. And this was probably a lesson I learned from a previous sale, but when an offer comes through in that platform, we still follow the process of getting all offers to contract. So it's not just in a cloud-based platform, because I found using the EXP offers that some owners, particularly this gentleman, he was 83 years old, I think, they don't have access to the platform, so he doesn't actually use it.
Yeah.
So it was important for us to take each offer that came through that platform, even though we were running a 3-week campaign, putting it to contract, presenting the offer in the contract. So that way there was physical evidence that, hey, there is an offer from a buyer that's interested in purchasing your property.
Yes.
And with that particular property, it's funny how people do this, but this vendor, And I think he was kind of having a bit of fun with the whole process anyway, because he's 83 and, you know, life's like that. But he, you know, I appraised this property. He said, oh, 800 would be great. And then it was 850, then it was 900. It seemed to go up by 100,000 before we even listed the property. So for him coming through and presenting offers.
Inflation, Lee. Inflation, mate.
I know, right? And so presenting those offers in a physical contract, I have had the mistake before where I guess I got lazy. And sometimes you do that when you're busy or you're doing quite well. You stop some of the standards. So my mistake in this other sale that I did is I didn't present every single offer as a contract. And the reason why I did it in my head was because the offers were like 200,000 or even more in some instances below what the owners wanted. So I thought, you know, it just seemed like a waste of a process. They were on the app, we discussed the offers, but in hindsight, I really should have put them in paper in front of their faces every step along the way, and it would have been maybe a better outcome from them. But I did use that here, and I use that all the time now, and it certainly helped in this situation, because when I presented the final offer, the owner said, you know what, let's go. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't want to wait around any longer. It was already on the market for a few weeks. He saw the other offers that came through. He knew this was what the market saw as value. We tried to get it up. We actually sat down with him and tried to negotiate the price another 10, 20 grand. But the buyers were stuck at their price. So he ended up accepting it.
Yeah. Yeah. Icon agents, I want to just thank you for taking time out of your schedule to share with us. I thought it would be interesting just to take a little bit of a more granular look at what goes on in a life of an Icon agent. So you're still real people doing real deals with real challenges and learnings and all that. So wanted to say thank you for that. And for those of you that are watching the replay, we'd love to see you live here with us every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock Perth time, 10 o'clock Australian Standard Time, and 9:30 in Adelaide. So for this week, we'll say farewell, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.